Guess the starter. Here we go.
So these are going to be like some surprises. I mean, there's been big moves every offseason, especially on draft day. So let's go with the first one with being Atlanta. I think Atlanta's going to have to settle for a Baker Mayfield. I think Levis is going to be gone by the time. I think all the three big quarterbacks are going to be gone by the time Atlanta drafts. And I don't think they're in a spot right now where they want to rebuild with a big project like an Anthony Richardson that could fall to them.
Yeah.
I think they're looking for more somebody who can come in right now and stabilize, win 6-7 games as opposed to being really bad. And I think the person for that's Baker Mayfield. I really do. And I don't love Baker, but I mean you get Kyle Pitts. Drake London had a really, really nice year. Their offensive line's not terrible. Baker can move a little bit. I mean, not quite as well as he thinks he can. He shouldn't be squaring up safeties, but he can move. I think he can stabilize, win 6-7 games, and then they can go from there. Maybe they go back and forth with him and Ritter. Either way, Baker's not at a point where you have to pay him a lot of money, and you don't have to start him. You could go get him, give Ritter a shot, and if he doesn't work, put Baker in, or start with Baker. If that doesn't work, go with Ritter. Doesn't matter.
And it's not like you're asking him to win a Super Bowl.
You got flexibility there. Yeah, and you're not asking him to win a Super Bowl.
You're not asking him to win a Super Bowl. You're not asking him to do anything crazy. Just be decent. Make sure we get some picks next year.
Yeah, I think
you're not going to win every single game, but hey, kid, play your heart out. He didn't look bad in Los Angeles. He went there and won a couple of games.
Yeah, 100%.
So, I feel like it's a decent spot for him.
I would agree. Let's go with the Washington Commanders. Again, they're in that kind of no man's land. They're drafting, I think, like 17th, 18th, 19th, something like that. That's not a good spot to go ahead and take your quarterback of the future, so they're going to go ahead and probably roll the dice with Jimmy G. Also, you have to look who's their coach, Ron Rivera. He's really, really more of a conservative defensive coach. He's not going to take big swings, so he's going to go with a proven guy who's not going to raise the temperature in the room. He's a good leader. He's going to come in, be able to win you some games. If you wanted to go with Sam Howell, Jimmy G is fine being the backup, mentoring a young guy. You don't have to pay him a lot of money. It makes a lot of sense for Jimmy to go to Washington.
And I don't think, Jimmy is not a bad quarterback by any stretch of the imagination.
No.
It's just about how you scheme the offense.
Yeah.
If you're asking Jimmy to do things that he obviously can't do and struggles to do, sometimes you'll see that when he's asked to take too many big shots.
Or move the pocket too much.
Right. He can't do those things. But if you tailor an offense towards a Jimmy G, he can actually be very successful.
Yeah, for sure. And they're not devoid of talent there. They have a decent run game, some good wideouts. So, all right, let's go with Vegas. I think Vegas goes ahead and drafts Will Levis at number 7.
Vegas.
I think it's going to be hard to convince offensive coach Josh McDaniels looking at the talent that is Will Levis. And let's be real. He drafted Tebow thinking he could fix Tebow. He's going to look at, Levis escapes the pocket too quick. Oh, that's fine. I can fix him. 6'5", big arm, smart kid. I can work. He can work with that and hopefully form him into a quarterback for the future. I mean, here's the thing. People are talking about, maybe they go get Jimmy G or maybe they settle for like a Ryan Tannehill. Why would you move off Derek Carr if you're going to go get Ryan Tannehill?
Yeah.
Right? You got to make a splash. You got to get somebody that's more talented. I like Derek Carr right now, but Will Levis is a more talented player overall than Derek Carr.
100% he is, yeah.
Bigger, stronger, can move a little bit better arm, has a much higher ceiling, so it makes sense to go with a Will Levis. If he's going to fall to you at 7, it makes a lot of sense. Vegas gets Will Levis.
And I think this is a spot where he could have the opportunity to excel. We were talking about it last week. He needs a lot of things to go his way and some cards to be in his favor in whichever organization he goes to, especially for the first couple years and learning.
100%.
I think Vegas might be a spot that could be built up in the next draft or two.
Devontae Adams, Hunter Renfrow, offensive coach, Darren Waller.
They got pieces.
Decent O-line.
They've got pieces. Will Levis can throw a ball, and last time I checked, Devontae Adams can still catch a ball.
100%.
So, not too bad there.
So where does that land Derek Carr? Let's go with the Panthers then. I think the Panthers go out and get Derek Carr. I think this is one of the first dominoes to fall, to be honest with you. It just makes a lot of sense. What does Derek want? Probably a pass rush, a decent defense. So he hasn't had a top 20 defense his entire career. The Panthers are somewhere in between 12 and 16 in the league defensively. They get a pass rush. They've been able to run the football even without Christian McCaffrey. And then you have a really, really good quarterback coach in Frank Reich. Andrew Luck, Phillip Rivers, Carson Wentz. They've all had their most efficient seasons under him. So go to the best quarterback coach on the market. They have good enough weapons. And instantly, is he not the best quarterback in the division? Tomorrow walks in.
100% he is.
So, you can be the best quarterback in the division, decent pieces around you. Carolina's a nice place to live. That makes a lot of sense for Derek Carr.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I liked it when you said it last week. There was only one other spot that I liked, and it was the Jets. But I could 100% see Carolina being the next spot.
We'll get to that later. We're saving the couple of trades towards the end. So let's go with Indianapolis. I think Indy drafts C.J. Stroud.
Okay.
I think Stroud is one of those. he reminds me a lot of Justin Herbert in terms of was good, but nothing like, oh, I'm going to draft him first overall, until that final game of his career, right? They go and they play Georgia, and you're like, oh, he can run for 85 yards and throw for 210, and he's tough, big arm, can move, right? So you saw the throwing ability the whole time he was there, but then that final game where he was able to cut it loose a little bit, I think that's really, really appealing to Indy. They have an impulsive owner, so they have to take a big swing. I think C.J. Stroud's got a lot of upside, can move around a lot. I think he sells jerseys, sells tickets. It makes a lot of sense.
Well, especially the level and the size and the magnitude of that game, right? In the biggest moment, he was able to step up and do that. I think that says a lot.
Yeah, and I went to Ohio State. It's right next door. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's in the same general footprint. It makes a lot of sense for me. All right, let's go with the Niners. I think Trey Lance. First of all, I don't think Brock Purdy's going to be ready. People are trying to tell me that a UCL isn't a big deal. No. Like, I don't think he's going to be able to throw week 1. I don't. I'm sorry. So I think Trey Lance starts. Now, who's their week 16, 17, 18 starter? Your guess is as good as mine. But I think week 1, I think Trey Lance, they're going to give him another shot. He's big, can move, big arms. So, I mean, you got to give him another shot at least. You traded up for him, draft him at 3.
Yeah.
You got to at least give him another shot. So I think they do. He'll be the week 1 starter.
I agree with that. You feel bad for Trey in this situation because you lost your whole entire first season, and now you got to try to make it all up. And if you look bad out of the gates, they're not gonna hesitate to move to Brock Purdy if they have to.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, this is where it starts to get a little bit crazy. Follow me here. A trade. Minnesota's sitting at 24.
Yeah.
And the New York Football Jets are sitting at 13. The Jets had negative output from their quarterback, as in they'd have been better without a quarterback on, like, not making throws, just handing the ball off, right? So, and they won, 7-8 games? Imagine if they got just league average. Go to the dictionary. What does league average look like in the NFL right now? Kirk Cousins. The Jets are going to go ahead, trade back to 24. Minnesota would then take 13. So the Jets, the package would be, the Jets are going to go ahead and get that 24th pick, Kirk Cousins, and a second-round pick. Instead, Minnesota will trade up to 13. They'll draft their quarterback of the future, Anthony Richardson, the big physical freak of nature from Florida. It makes a lot of sense. What does everybody from Minnesota just bitch and complain about? Kirk is super average, shrinks in big moments. So you have to make a swing. Right, there's not a lot of you can bang on Kirk Cousins. There's not a lot of upgrading from Kirk Cousins. There's not a lot of 4,200 yards, 31 touchdowns a season on the market. That's not on the market. I'm sorry, it's just not.
Yeah,
that's not something you find every day. But what could be that and more in a year or two? Anthony Richardson. So I think they make a splash. They trade back, Minnesota trades up. New York trades back. New York gets their average quarterback good enough. They can go win 10 games tomorrow with Kirk Cousins.
It's interesting.
Minnesota with a lot of good weapons. Let Anthony Richardson run wild. You have an offensive coach who was a quarterback in the league, backup quarterback, Kevin O'Connell, for 10 years, right? He knows the game. He can mentor Richardson. I don't think it's a bad move. I think it's out there. I'll admit that, but I don't think it's a bad move at all.
Seems almost a little bit mutually beneficial.
It does seem mutually beneficial. Here's another one that does too, and here people are not going to like this. So Houston sits at 2.
Oh, this one. Okay. We're just diving right into it.
Houston sits at 2. Baltimore doesn't know what to do with Lamar. Baltimore doesn't know what to do with Lamar. So it's a system that's built for a slight quarterback that can move. Now, granted, Lamar moves more than Bryce Young does. Bryce Young is much better from the pocket. But both are still mobile. Both are really, really slight quarterbacks, so you have to protect them. Baltimore isn't ready to pay the big money to somebody who's not reliable physically, at least in the last couple of years. Who's not reliable physically but can still fit into that system? We're not sure about his frame. Bryce Young. But Bryce Young is also wildly cheap. Then you don't have to pay him. You can restart the 4-year clock on a rookie quarterback to try to build a championship contender around the young rookie. So Bryce Young makes sense to me.
So Bryce Young to Baltimore.
Bryce Young to Baltimore.
But now this...
Lamar to Houston. So here's how it would work. You're going to have to give up. You're going to give Baltimore your first this year and your first next year.
Okay.
So
that would be then Houston has to see Lamar as a guy that's worth a second overall pick, though.
Second overall pick and another first.
Yeah.
But you're getting a known commodity and you're trading away unknown commodities. So then what Baltimore would do at the number 2 pick is take Bryce Young.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, it solves it solves the problems for both franchises right now.
Because Baltimore can't afford to pay that money.
Who's watching? Who's tuning in to watch Houston Texan football games next year?
Anybody outside the city of Houston? No.
Almost nobody. If Lamar's there, I at least watch a couple that makes him interesting enough to watch.
100%.
I'd watch that tire fire with Lamar.
Well, that also makes them. Well, I'm not saying that makes them like the season where they made that little bit of a run with Deshaun.
It makes him good,
but
it makes him viable.
It makes him relevant.
It makes him a scrappy 7-win team.
Sell some jerseys,
at least.
Get a little hype in the city.
Baltimore gets the restart with a young quarterback.
They don't have to pay way over their head, and then they can still sign people. And
secretly, I know the injuries is a problem. Behind closed doors, what's the real problem from paying Lamar? His development passing.
Yeah.
Let's be real here.
I mean, he wins a lot.
He wins a lot, and I know the injuries are a concern. Let's be real. The whole being able to throw the football consistently thing is something that bugs him. I know it.
Yeah.
Bryce can throw it more consistently. That's all I'm saying. Let's go. I think I'm crazy. Let's go ahead and transition.